Hello and welcome back to Redirecting. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the enemy within. Right now, there seems to be a lot of focus on the enemy without, but we don't realize that the enemy within is far more dangerous than the enemy without. And what I'm talking about definitely has something to do with color lines. We focus on the enemies without because we believe that that is where our focus should be. If we understood how everything works, how the decrees have already been set, and everyone is a player in this game that we call life, it's already been set that those without are going to do the things that they are doing. And because we don't understand that fully, we are focused on people who were already said or prophesied to do the things that they're doing. And that gives the enemy within free range to move about and do things and interrupt lives without us fully understanding what is before us, because we have let our guards down in many cases, and we've applied too much trust where there should be a lot more caution. Some of you can already pick up on what I'm talking about, but for those of you who are not really clear or sure of what I'm talking about, it's kind of like a revisiting of the subject matter that enemies come in black and white. We are so busy focused on those without, those who don't look like us, but we're not realizing that the enemies within are far more dangerous, because they understand that we have enemies without. And so when they are your enemy from within, they will try to use the enemies without to do great damage to you. So we're talking about people who look just like you, who will try to use a system that has been put in place to destroy all of us. They will try to use that system to target you specifically. So that enemy to me is far more dangerous than those without, because this is a person who you might look at as a friend or a brother, a relative, or someone in your community that can be trusted because they look like you. Now we hear the statement that all skin folk ain't kinfolk. I get what the statement is saying, but it's far deeper than that. It's far deeper than that, because I've seen people who are not skin folk who could be trusted far more or far better than people who look just like you. We've actually experienced that in our lives personally, where someone who didn't even look like us was looking out for us more or had our back more than those who look like us. And many of you may have had the same experience. And it's really truly sad that that ever has to be the narrative. But that is what happens when you have a people who are destroyed. Of course, we understand what caused this destruction of our people, both naturally and mentally, and should I say spiritually as well, all three, naturally, spiritually, and mentally. We understand what has caused all of this, but many of us, we refuse to change. We refuse to try to seek deliverance from all of this, and we embrace the dysfunction. Many of our people embrace the dysfunction to the point where they are willing participants in the destruction of other people who look just like them. And so while we're so busy trying to focus on the enemies without, the enemies within are pulling out all of the stops and waging their own personal battles against other people who look just like them. And these same people will cower when other enemies are near. They cower at their presence. But when it comes to their own people, they pull out all of the stops with the evil that they will inflict on you. So this is why you've got to be very careful and understand what we are dealing with. We are living in a time to where you cannot afford to let down your guards. We were even warned in Scripture to never put confidence in man. We've also been warned in Scripture not to just allow anyone to come into your home. Because what happens when you allow anyone to just come into your home, you have to understand that there are spirits attached to those visits. And if that person means you no good, then that means that they mean you harm. Now, there are some people, like delivery people, who might just come and go, and that's the end of that. Mail carriers, UPS, they come and go, and that's the end of that. But there are some people who come with an agenda attached. And if you are not spiritually alert, you won't know that there is something sinister or dark behind the connection that's made from that visit. So it's very important that we understand that our enemies are many. And just because they smile in your face, or just because they say that they are a friend, or just because they have that smiling face, come on now. We have to understand that we need discernment. We have to use wisdom in our dealings with people from day to day. There are so many different scenarios that we see played out on a daily basis. On a daily basis, we see these scenarios played out. And some of us, we act as though we are shocked each and every time. But if we understood human nature, and that is in the nature of man and woman to be sinful, then we would no longer be shocked or surprised when we see certain things happening. What we need to do as a people is understand that this life is not just a natural walk, but is a spiritual walk as well. And if we paid more attention to the spiritual than we do the natural, we would see ourselves in a much different and better position. But because many ignore the spiritual realm and they deal only in the natural, you can't see, or they refuse to see, that behind the scenes there are some dark things that are happening, and you're only preparing yourself, and in some cases not even preparing yourself for the natural, but you're only living in the natural and not even dealing with the unseen, not even dealing with the spiritual realm. You don't understand it, and so you don't deal with it. And so all of this dysfunction is stirred about. You put it in a bowl and you just stir it all up. You don't try to deal with it. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to eliminate. You just go from bad to worst in every situation that you are involved in because you are not dealing with the spiritual realm. If we understood the spiritual realm better, we would know that behind every set of eyes, there is something there, either good or bad. Now, of course, there is the neutral. Like I said, you have a person who just comes and goes. They deliver something, and that's the end of that. But there's not just good and bad. There's the neutral. We get that. But if there's something sinister behind a person's eyes, we should all be able to see that. We should be able to understand that. We should be able to discern that. If you have your spiritual eyes on, you would know if you are in the presence of a friend or an enemy. You would know that if you had on your spiritual eyes. See, we've been taught through many religious arenas that we are supposed to give people the benefit of the doubt, and that is a lie. Friendship and trust is something that is earned, not just something that you pass out like free tickets. You don't just give that away. That has to be earned. It's unfortunate that many have expected and expect you to simply give away friendship and trust. No. If you don't earn it, you don't get it. You don't just trust someone. I notice a lot of people use that type of manipulation, and they'll say, "What, you don't trust me?" Well, first of all, what have you done to earn that trust? Especially someone who you don't know. Of course, no, I don't trust you. I don't know you. Have you earned my trust? And even if it's someone you do know, they still have to earn it. Years don't automatically give you trust. Just because you've been in someone's presence or in their lives for years doesn't mean that you automatically have trust. It's something that you earn. And it's something that the person who gives that trust will know through discernment and interaction with you. And just simply observing the type of person you are. I just want my people and anyone who hears this video to know and understand that human nature, just by the fact that it is part of our flesh, cannot be trusted. You can't simply trust someone because they want to be trusted. They've got to do something in exchange for your trust. Just like you can't expect someone to hand you something free when you go to a store or go someplace and you want a product that they have. You can't expect them to give it to you. You have to do something to get that item. Trust is the same way. I feel like it's something that you can't just give away. It has to be earned. So very important that we know this and that we teach it to our children. It's not something you can buy. You certainly can't just buy a person's trust. Now, some people have allowed themselves to be bought in that way, where a person will give them a gift and they'll feel like that person can be trusted just because they gave you a gift. No, you have to understand that sometimes a gift is a trap. Everyone giving something to you doesn't mean you any good. Never sell your trust. Never allow a person to put a price on trust. Even if you have nothing to give, make your spirit, make your personality, make who you are be the thing that causes that person to trust you or causes another person to trust you. Because if you allow yourself to be bought, if a person allows another person to buy their trust with gifts, oh, that person can easily manipulate you. They can just give you something and then they have you hook, line, and sinker because you were able to be bought. Back to the subject at hand here, however. The subject at hand is the fact that we have those who look just like us who can be far more dangerous enemies than those without. Especially in this awakening. We think that just because someone is dressing the part and looking the part and acting the part. Notice I said acting. Oh yeah, they say Shabbat Shalom. They have on their fringes, their heads wrapped. They have on the garments. But their heart is filled with rottenness. Their hearts are filled with wickedness. And they think that just because you are a part of their assembly, or because they know who they are of the flesh, that somehow qualifies them as righteous. Don't be fooled by all of the religious jargon, because that's all it is. If this person doesn't have a real relationship with the Most High, then they are talking loud and saying nothing. Talking loud and saying nothing. It's time for us to be wise as serpents and harmless as... I'm going to leave that part off. Forget the harmless as doves. It's not appropriate for this message. But wise as serpents. We have got to be wise as serpents, knowing and understanding and discerning everyone we come in contact with. Because there are things happening in the world right now that if you are not aware of these things, if you are not well versed in these things and understanding, then you can be deceived. Playtime is over. We have to understand that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, the rulers of darkness of this world, and spiritual wickedness in high places. And all of this that I just said, all of these spirits and demons and operations are working through people. So when you see a person that is operating in a certain way under the influence of evil spirits, know and understand that they have been touched, that these people have allowed spirits to manipulate their minds so that they can manipulate others. This is why the scripture talks about those that are deceiving and being deceived. So, again, don't put all of your focus on the enemies without. So much more I can say on this subject, but I'm going to go ahead and cut this video off right about here. Don't put all of your focus on the enemies without, because the enemies within are far more dangerous. With that, family, I will say shalom. Be sure to ring the bell to be notified of new uploads on this channel, and also comment, share, like, and subscribe.